Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Dr. Danish Mazhar and you are watching Danish Learning Wala. Today we are going to review a very interesting and thought-provoking TED Talk titled Stop Teaching, Start Learning by Mariappan Jawaharlal. The title itself quite powerful, Stop Teaching, Start Learning. But does it really mean that teachers should stop teaching? Of course not. The real message is that we need to change our understanding of education. We often think that if teacher has taught something, the student must have learned it. But teaching and learning are not necessarily the same thing. A teacher can deliver an excellent lecture, complete the entire syllabus, and explain every concept. But real question remains, did the student actually learn? And this is the central question that makes this TED Talk so interesting. In traditional classroom, the teacher usually stand in front of the student. The teacher explain, student listen, student take notes, and they prepare for exam. But this model can sometimes make students passive. They become receiver of information rather than active participant in learning. Students have access to Google, YouTube, online courses, digital libraries, and artificial intelligence. So the teacher is no longer only the source of information. The more important role of teacher is to help students understand, question, apply, and create. Therefore, instead of asking how much I teach, we should ask how much did my student learn. That is very important change in mindset. One of the strongest idea in this TED Talk is the movement from teacher-centered education to learner-centered education. This doesn't mean the teacher become unimportant. In fact, the teacher role become even more meaningful. The teacher become a facilitator, mentor, and guide. Instead of always giving student the answer, we can give them problem and ask them to find a solution. Instead of saying this is the correct method, we can ask how would you solve this problem? This encourages problems to think independently. And independent thinking is one of the most important skills students need today. Learning by doing. An educator in technical education, I particularly appreciate the idea learning by doing. Let us take an example. Suppose I teach student about computer networking. I can explain IP address, subnetting, routers, switches, and VLANs for an entire lecture. Student may memorize all the definition, but then I can give a real network and say configure it, connect the devices, find the problem and make the network work. Now learning become different. The student has to think, the student has to experiment, the student may make mistake, the student may have to try again. Finally, when the network works, the student understand concept at much deeper level. This is the difference between knowing something and being able to use it. The same principle applies to electrical engineering, programming, automotive technology, and almost every technical field. Students should not only hear about technology, they should experience it, use it, and build with it. Another important point in the role of mistake. Many students are afraid of making mistakes because they think mistakes mean failure. But mistake can actually become powerful learning opportunities. Imagine a student working on electrical circuit. The circuit doesn't work. Instead of immediately telling the student the answer, the teacher can ask, where do you think problem is? The student checks the wiring, then power supply, then the measurements. Eventually the student finds the problem. That experience may teach the student more simply reading the correct answer in a textbook. So we should create classroom where students feel comfortable asking questions, experimenting and making mistakes because sometimes the best teacher is not success. Sometimes the best teacher is a mistake that makes us think. Think about a young child. Children ask questions all the time. Why is sky blue? Why does moon change? Why does something fall? Why does electricity work? They are naturally curious. But sometimes a student moves through the education system, curiosity get replaced by examination pressure. Student begin asking why will the question come in the exam? Instead, why does this happen? This is something we need to think about. Education should not reduce curiosity. It should increase it. A good teacher should not provide answer. A good teacher should also create better question. Because when student asking meaningful question, real learning begins. We are living in a time when technology is transforming education. Student can learn almost anything online. Artificial intelligence can explain concept, generate example, help with research and provide immediate feedback. But technology alone does not guarantee learning. A smart board does not automatically create a smart classroom. A laptop does not automatically create an innovative student. And AI does not automatically create understanding. The real question is, how are we using technology? Are students simply consuming information, or they asking technology to explore, experiment, solve problem, and create? That distribution is extremely important. Technology should not replace thinking, it should support thinking. For me, one of the most powerful ideas connected with this talk is the question, if my student cannot learn without me, have I really succeeded as teacher? A teacher ultimate success should be develop independent learners. Students should eventually to be able to say, I don't know the answer yet, but I know how to find it. That is much more powerful than simply memorizing an answer. Because technology changes, industries change, job change, knowledge changes. Therefore, what students learn today may not be enough for tomorrow. But if we teach them how to learn, they can continue learning throughout their life. This is the real meaning of lifelong learning. So, what can we practically learn from this TED Talk? I think we can start small changes. Instead of explaining everything, sometimes give student a problem. Instead of immediately give the solution, let them explore. Instead of focusing only on correct answer, encourage students to explain their thinking. Instead of relying only on lecture, introduce projects and practical activities. Instead of assessing only memory, assess application problem solving. And most important, give students opportunities to think. Because education is not simply about completing the syllabus. It is developing capable, confident, and curious human beings. As an educator, I strongly believe that technical education, especially, must connect knowledge with practice. If an electrical student knows the definition of a circuit but cannot troubleshoot a circuit, there is a gap. If networking student can define an IP address but cannot configure a network, there is a gap. If programmers know programming terminology but cannot develop a working solution, there is a gap. Therefore, modern education needs a combination of knowledge, practice, problem solving, and creativity. Our classroom become places where students practice thinking or just places where students receive information. Overall, I found Stop Teaching, Start Learning to be very thought provoking TED Talk. The message is particularly relevant in today's education environment. The talk reminds us the ultimate goal of education is not teaching, the ultimate goal is learning. Teachers should guide rather than simply dictate. Students should participate rather than simply listen. Mistakes should only become opportunities rather than sources of fear. Technology should support learning rather than replacing thinking. And education should develop students who can continue learning independently. Let me leave you with one important question. Are we preparing students only to pass examination, or are we preparing them to solve problems of tomorrow? Because these are not always the same thing. The future will belong to people who can learn, unlearn, relearn. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson of this TED Talk. We should not simply say, I have taught you. Instead, we should say, I have helped you learn. And students should not simply ask, what will you teach me? They should ask, what can I discover, practice, and create? This is a shift from teaching to learning. This is a shift from passive education to active education. And that is why I believe this TED Talk is worthy watching, especially for teachers, students, anyone interested in the future of education. Thank you for watching. I am Dr. Danish Ali Mazhar, and you are watching Danish Learning Wala. Keep learning, keep questioning, keep experimenting, and keep growing. Allah Hafiz.